All right, all right, all right. We're back here at Song of the Day, coming to you from the Rock Cave. As usual, I'm your host, Mark Pierce. How are we doing today? It's Saturday. Hope you're all doing well. Still recovering from yesterday's Song of the Day. A little AC/DC to get your weekend going. That was a good one, right? Man, that album is just great. Hard to pick a favorite song on that one. Gonna have to keep listening to that all weekend long. What do we got going on today? Well, let's do a little bit of music history on this date. Back in 1956, a gentleman by the name of Mike Stoller, who co-wrote the song Hound Dog, made famous Elvis Presley. He survived the sinking of the Andrea Doria after it collided with the MV Stockholm just outside of Nantucket. Remember that story? 51 people died. He survived. 1965, the day the music died. Not the one you think of, but, oh, the Broken Hearts. Bob Dylan went to the Newport Blues Folk Festival, plugged in his guitar. What? Oh my gosh. That's the devil's music. He was booed off stage. That's how bad it was. He got into like 3 songs and just booed off. No electric guitar, you're a folkie. He gets convinced to go back on stage and plays 2 more songs. Anyway, some people are still hurting over that one. 1970, the first hit to go to number 1, Close to You by the Carpenters. The Carpenters owned the 70s, did they not? 20 top US top 40 hits after that. You gotta like the Carpenters, I guess, right? But man, that's tough. That's tough music to get through if you listen to a whole greatest hits. You better have some whiskey with you. So 1980, a little bit of controversy. Kiss replaces the cat with the fox. Peter Criss out. Eric Carr in. 1983, Metallica releases its debut album, Kill 'Em All. On to greatness they would be. Notice we got the shout out to Music Outlet here for Metallica. Interesting thing about that, there was some tracks were left off of it or were on it at first and then re-released on there, and then some of it were Garage Days revisited. Then there was a CD version that was an early print or a later print. There was one version of it you could get Am I Evil and Blitzkrieg on it, and then that went out of print, and then it was one without it. So whenever we tried to sell one used, if one came with those 2 tracks on it, it was a bigger deal because it was a collector's item. Anyway, that's your music news for today. I'm not Kurt Loder. What are we doing today? I had a different song planned for today, but then earlier this week I said, I can't let this one slip by. I did mention it, so we're going to go with this one. This week in 1987, July 21st, Guns N' Roses puts out its debut album to zero fanfare. Nobody cared. True story. They put it out. Nobody played it. Nothing happened. Zero. Got no traction at all. It wasn't a big deal. Why? Partially because the airwaves were being dominated by Aerosmith's comeback record, Permanent Vacation, and Def Leppard's Hysteria, just ruling the airwaves. Who were Guns N' Roses? They're hanging out in LA, part of all different bands. It turns out Izzy Stradlin's living with Tracy Guns, the founder of LA Guns. Everyone knows LA Guns, right? And he says, hey, we're going to start a band. You want to be in it? He says, sure. So that's where they get the name from. It's a combination of LA Guns and the band that Axl Rose was in, the Hollywood Roses, or just Hollywood Roses. Guns N' Roses. There you go. Tracy Guns did not last very long. He quit pretty early on. So then they mixed up their lineup, and their classic lineup was settled in June of 1985. They spend 1985 touring all the LA area. They start to get some following there. They're playing the Troubadour. They're playing up the coast. They're going up to Seattle. They're playing the Roxy, and they finally get a deal with Geffen, and they sign to Geffen in '86. Okay, they start writing these songs for this album. Turns out a bunch of songs were written that didn't make that record. You Could Be Mine was written. November Rain, how about that? And Don't Cry. Those were all written for the same time for Appetite, but they only wanted one ballad on this record, and they had already committed to Sweet Child, so that's why those didn't make it on there. They tried to figure out who was going to be their producer. They settled on someone, but not before considering who? You know who, Mutt Lange, right? They wanted to use him, but he cost too much money, that guy. Most of the songs on this record were brought from the various members that they had been working on previously, okay? So it debuts at number 187 out of 200 on August 6th, 1987. Like I said, no traction. They just spend the rest of the time touring, playing their music, doing their thing. Finally, they start getting some attention. Obviously, MTV is around. It takes 1 full year for them to go to number 1. To the date, August 6, 1988 is when it goes to number 1. The same date it debuted at 187 a year before. That record was old by the time we were listening to it that summer of '87. All right, what do we got for track listing on here? I mean, first of all, when this came out, I wasn't sold on it either. I mean, Bethany, you're out there. You were obsessed with Axl Rose in this record. I didn't understand it. I mean, I liked a couple songs, but I just wasn't that interested in this album. I just didn't think it was that good. It's funny to read reviews. The thing when you read music reviews is one of the things they do is they talk about the initial reviews, usually how bad it was, any record. And then the people go back and they re-review them 10, 15, 20 years later, and they're always better, right? They always say, oh yeah, but that's fair, because I didn't like this record necessarily when it came out, and I like it now, so I guess that's all right. But Rolling Stone, famous for me not agreeing with their reviews right from the get-go. I had a subscription to them forever. When I reviewed their reviews, I basically would buy the record if it had 2 stars, because I figured that one was going to be pretty good. All right, what do we got for track listing? Welcome to the Jungle, It's So Easy, Mr. Brownstone, Paradise City, Sweet Child of Mine, Rocket Queen. Those are your big ones, right? There's a song on there that deserves some attention. It's called You're Crazy. It's a totally different version than the one that I like. And the reason why I like it, Tom, thank you for bringing that to my attention several years ago. I don't even remember if I'd ever heard it before, but they re-released You're Crazy on that GNR Lies, and it's like a acoustic version. Now that is a killer song. We're going to post that even though it's not on this record, because that version is awesome, and you got to wait for it. You got to wait for the crescendo. It's awesome. So we're going to put that under the song of the day. But what are we doing for song of the day? We're at 8 minutes. We're trying to get under 10. People think I'm going to go with Welcome to the Jungle, but I'm not. I do love that song, but you know, if you look at that record, really, Sweet Child of Mine is the song on that album. It's a great song. I never get tired of that song. It's a good one. So we're going to do Sweet Child of Mine, Guns N' Roses debut record 33 years ago, but we weren't listening to it until 32 years ago. Enjoy your Saturday. It's going to be beautiful out there. It's going to be a hot one. Good day to take that top off your Jeep and those doors off. That's what I'll be doing, cruising around to a little Guns N' Roses. Enjoy it. We're going to do something different tomorrow on Sunday. We're going to go, music-wise, we're going to go with something fun. So, have a great day, and as usual, say it with me, we'll see you on the flip side.